The product is exciting. It's going to encourage young boys and girls to be able to live out their dream, which matters.
Late last year, it was announced that the United Soccer League was coming to Jacksonville, and that became official. The USL is the second tier of professional soccer in the United States. With that, we'll talk a little bit more about the soccer and the state of soccer here in Jacksonville. I'm here with JAX USL's Mauricio Ruiz. You have a very long title, so before we ask you how you're doing, just tell us what exactly is your title?
Yeah, so business and technical development, operating in two different capacities within the organization.
So now you obviously look very familiar to the folks at home because we've seen you as the head coach of the JU men's soccer team, winning ASUN championships, and now you're transitioning to not just getting out of, JU, but you're getting out of coaching technically. Right. Just tell me about how that transition has been for you now with JAX USL.
Yeah, it's exciting, right? At the college level, we're really dealing with the youth development, and also as kids graduate from college, getting to the pro ranking. So having relationships with club agents and team managers and whatnot. When the opportunity came to work at a pro soccer in our city, something that we've always felt there's a vacancy of, it was kind of felt seamless to be able to transition into that, and to be able to enter it at a stage where I'm entering at, which is at the startup kind of transition part of it. It's exciting to be able to learn how the organization works from the inside out and really start putting your imprint into that.
Tell me a little bit just sort of kind of what's going on, because still USL is still fairly new. Obviously, club just announced not long ago. You got a host of characters that we've seen, all in the city in terms of just kind of, heading that and the founding fathers, if you will.
Sure.
Just tell us kind of what's going on with USL and obviously your involvement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have a great group of ownership and investment group, and Ricky Kaplan, our majority owner, and Tim Tebow, our minority owner, and then we also have the people on the ground that are doing a great job with it. Our priority is to identify the location of our facility.
Yep.
Is the USL business model really calls for making sure that you own and you can take over your entire space.
Sure.
So making sure that we identify that, and for us, visibility and accessibility are two major pillars as we identify and kind of come close to announcing where we're going to be. Those two things are really important for us. Those are limited in the city to make sure that you have somewhere that's accessible for our soccer catchment area,
sure.
But also have the visibility where we're not hidden somewhere. People can see us. We can be a really good landmark into the project.
Kind of shifting gears back to your specific role with the team, obviously. We were talking and just the ability for you to go out and have these conversations. We'll get to the youth aspect of it in a second, but just in terms of building that foundation, someone like you who you're deep rooted in the city, you have these connections with the soccer community, because a lot of people may not know that soccer has been around for much longer than people think.
Sure.
And it's ever growing. With the youth, the adult leagues, the rec leagues, and semi-professional, professional soccer. Just for someone like yourself and everything that you've been able to accomplish here in the city, how much, I guess I won't say easier is probably a bad word, but just how does that help you, in your typical day-to-day, just kind of helping grow not just soccer but USL?
Yeah, well, soccer, as you mentioned, it just keeps growing, right? And we're off of the back end of the World Cup. We're about to enter the Women's World Cup here in New Zealand and Australia, and then within a 3-year time, the World Cup will be here in the U.S. And we want to be present in the conversation. So as we're going around town and talking to people and introducing a project to them, we're introducing kind of where soccer is and the growth of soccer in the United States, but also in Florida and in Jacksonville specifically. The history of it, what we have done, how Jacksonville has been a part of the U.S. soccer fabric, but then the place that we can now take. When you start kind of getting to the terms of those specifics and how we want to place Jacksonville in the soccer community in the country, business partners and sponsors, they get really excited because they know that it's more than just one product. We can really enhance their visibility and experience and just telling that story.
Like you said, it's not just men, but it's women as well. Let's be honest, when we're talking about what soccer in the United States, the U.S. women's national team reigns supreme.
Yeah.
So that ability for you guys to really make that an important part of this launch for the women's side. Can you speak to that importance?
Well, we know representation is important, right? And in our city, we don't have representation on the pro level, on the men or on the women. So when we decided to launch the men's side, it was important for us to represent ourselves on the women's side and kind of piggyback on the success that the women's soccer have in this country. But the rest of the world is also catching up. right? Because we don't have, we have the NWSL, which is the Women's Pro League, which have about 15 teams still. So really an untapped market all over the country to introduce more women's soccer at a highest level. Our college system does a great job locally and regionally with the SEC and ACC. So for us to be able to capture that, those talented women players to be able to represent, and a lot of them are coming from North Florida, right? I think we have 4 young ladies right now that represent the U.S. national team in different categories. So be able for us to be able to represent them nationally, in our stage, but also be able to retain them here, right? Well, what a great bit would that be for our young boys and our young ladies to have the visibility to play pro in their own city, and be a part of the development, right? Wherever they go, wherever their ceiling might be, we want to be a part of that. So we don't want to do that just on the men's side. We certainly want to do that on the women's side also.
Last question for you in terms of the business model. It's not just about building; it's about sustaining it. You can't sustain, a professional soccer club without having, a feeder program, the youth coming in. Obviously, like you were saying earlier, you've had some chats with some youth soccer, individuals, some clubs, some organizations, but just, speak to me on just the importance of that. We've been talking about a little bit just in terms of kind of having that visibility for kids to come see and have a place to go, but just you guys are really trying to take advantage of the, the youth market in terms of soccer here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, personally, I've worked with all the youth coaches and directors here in town, all the clubs. I think we have a great product in our town, right? Our hope is to be able to unify that a little bit, working with all the major and smaller clubs that are in our area. How we do that, I think those are conversations that we're having, but our ultimate goal and our sentiment is that we want to work with everybody. We want to make sure that we group all of the teams together, allow them to continue to do what they're doing, support them in that sense, be a bridge for them, but ultimately be able to give them accessibility to a pro level environment, that pathway to pro that we talk about for young men and young women, but also to coaches development, right? Refereeing development, right? What do they do after they finish playing? So we want to be incorporating to all of that, work with all the local clubs. I think they're doing a fantastic job. We want to empower them and support them even more, give them access, maybe tweak a couple of things here and there if they're willing to do that. But we won't be successful if we don't have the support of the entire community.
Awesome. Well, that's Mauricio Ruiz. We look forward to the growth, and we're going to play some soccer soon.
That's right. Thanks, Marcel.
Awesome. Appreciate
it. Thank you.
Action Sports Jax Primetime, Saturday at 10:30 on Fox 30.